literally, this is what the universe responds to. The universe, this is, now I'm not the first person to say this, but
Right.
I have to confirm this. Universe will meet you halfway. So if you're just like, I don't know what to do, like if you're just going to be like, prayer, just help me, could that work? It could, but here's the better way to go. When the universe sees you making the effort and you got the commitment, then they'll be like, well, he's trying.
Yeah.
That's when some miracles can come. Because, if you're just like, the universe isn't going to invest in you if you're not going to invest in yourself.
Welcome to the Too Curious MD podcast. I'm Dr. Ali Ahmed.
And I'm Dr. Soraya Rahman.
With the wisdom from holistic, alternative, and these conventional medicine, we are here to challenge the status quo.
We're curious about the connectivity and complexity between diverse fields of knowledge as they relate to consciousness, chronic illness, mental health, resilience, and beyond.
Learning more about the art and science of healing, or listening to stories of extraordinary healing. You're in the right place. Let's dive in.
So welcome to the Too Curious MDs podcast. My name is Soraya Rahman. I'm here today with Jonathan Mozenter. And hi, Jonathan.
Hey, great to be here, Soraya.
Yeah, wonderful to have you. Jonathan has a Soul Mentoring is the website that you kind of present with. But once you kind of delve into it, I've kind of heard you describe it, it's truly a transformative story. So I feel like the bio is the story. And I would really like to introduce you in that way, to kind of invite you into kind of letting us know who you are. Because I feel like that question is answered differently depending on which perspective we take. So I just want to introduce people to the idea that this is about 6D chess maybe. And then kind of sit back, take it slow, and kind of, this is a conversation to have in a different way. And I really want to bring that in. So tell us a little bit about who you are, Jonathan.
Wow, where to start? What an introduction. So I'm excited about human flourishing. So I think I'm going to start from the top about passions. I'm a dreamer, and I believe that everyone's going to win at once, and I'm going to see it in my lifetime, and I'm going to play a role, a positive role in co-creation and synthesis. I think it's a global collaboration, and everyone's got a role if they want to. I'm a volunteerist. I don't believe in force. So I've been in this inquiry about like, what's it going to take for everyone to win at once, and what would be my role? And then once I figure that out, then I'll just play that role. And I trust what I call the collective metacognition will gather everyone else together. Now, what do I mean by that is I have a story. I went from somebody who was like a Jewish kid who was not really into it. So I went from like a Reformed Jew and a very agnostic kind of household, became like super agnostic. And then I got discovered Ken Wilber in something called metaphysics. And then I discovered something called Vajrayana Buddhism and idealism. And I went from being very agnostic to, I would call myself non-dual spirituality, which is more like, I actually believe we're all God and we're just talking to each other to know what it means to be alive. That's where I came down to it. It's like, everyone's God. I don't want to, but God has a lot of parts. And I think there's a part of God that's like not in a body, which I call the collective metacognition. So it's like a part of it is like listen to everybody and doing its best to try and make it happen. But it's only as good as we are. That's one of the things I've learned is like, it's not all magical. It needs us to grow and evolve with it. So what I determined through this inquiry was that the best thing I could do was to first figure out how to activate my soul so I could express fully, get my gifts. And it turns out once I figured it out for me, I figured out like how to do it for other people. So I've been doing it for clients. So, but my real gift is synthesis. I tend to have this really open mind, and I explore and I tinker and I measure. And what I'm really passionate about now is to tell my story that I exist and partner with other people like yourself who also are in this human flourishing ideology, but not just as we can do it. You're doing stuff like you got your own practice. You're doing your own Sir Mix-a-Lot kind of synthesis. And I love that we have some things that are the same and some things that are different. I actually think that us open-minded healers, mixing things, or just being open-minded in general. People open-minded, like let's look and see how like a little bit of scientist in us, but also still a lot of imagination. Because some people call themselves a scientist, I think forget that there's no such thing as settled scientists, and they get so into the science that they've been geeking on, and they forget like, hey, you don't want to make it solid. There's like one discovery somewhere else in another part of science that could change everything you ever thought was true. I don't know if we forget that,
Absolutely.
we're in trouble.
Yeah.
People get very attached to like what they figured out or what is safety. And anyways, so I think that starts at a high level who I am. I'll let you kind of riff from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a good starting point?
I love that. I mean, you're bringing in so many different threads. And I loved that. First of all, the question that arose was, how old were you when you decided to do this or when this crystallized for you? Because it feels like it was a decision you made at some point. And I really like to hear from people on their path to this, because this has been a synthesis of your own.
Yes.
So we don't want to jump to the next thing before we kind of lay a little bit more of the ground of like, what was it that was synthesizing for you?
Great question. All right. I'll go from here. So the very short, this is so people can have context about what got synthesized when. All right. There's Jonathan Mozenter, a little boy, parents are social workers, grows up in an environment where psychology is the top is the top like thing that we're talking about. That's the thing that the biggest worldview, our mental model of the family. My parents both have MSWs. That's really important because I got a lot of psychology and I'm a very analytical child, really good with math, really competitive, like sports, business. So why is that important? Because guess what? I ended up getting into like business and psychology. Like, so I even thought about being like a sports agent. I thought about being like a clinical psychologist. I actually worked in the therapy field for a few years. Long story short, I ended up being an organizational psychologist. So I kind of brought my business, my competitive sports, but then I like to look deep at the different aspects. So I became like a coach, a facilitator, a consultant. So I was working on human flourishing. I have an MBA from Boston University. I get really into organizational development. I create a whole organization and teach other people in it. I start doing professional consulting. I have private jobs, but most of the time I was a contractor for the federal government. So most of my consulting work was done with the Volpe Center. They do consulting and research for DOT. So I was helping like the trucking industry drop the number of fatalities. I was talking Federal Railroad Administration, less injuries, less fatalities. That's usually what these modes, each mode, airlines, cars, boats, yada, yada, highway, they all trying to reduce accidents and deaths. So it's about reducing trend lines. Great. So now my big epiphany, I'm 39. I'm having my midlife review, not a crisis. This is like a report card. Like some of my metacognition's like, all right, he's 39 now, is halfway there, supposedly. You better check in with yourself. It's like a cultural thing. And just people do that at that age. I'm 50. I'll be 55 on April 12th. So I'm 50. I'm almost 54. I'm 54, almost 55. So basically, this is a while ago. So during this kind of thing, I'm thinking, hey, I don't know. I'm like, trying to be honest. Like some things are good, some things aren't good. Long story short, like my career, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I'm stuck on a job. So I'm like, I don't know. That's B, maybe. Let's need some work. I had relationship. That was the other one that I didn't do as well as I wanted. I was like, I really want to be married, have kids. And for some reason, I end up dating and having a lot of short-term relationships. I'm not really sure what's going on, but I can't seem to lock it down. Getting lots of dates, but I'm not really, Mrs. Mozenter's not finding her way to me, and I'm not sure why. So I'm like, whatever I was doing with therapy and stuff, it wasn't working. So I just said to the universe, I don't know what's going on with me. Whatever I tried before, and I was trying stuff. I tried therapy and different organizational development tools, wasn't working. But I literally, like I was a Texas Hold'em player. I was like, okay, universe, I don't really believe in God or anything, but I just like energetically is like, I don't know. I'm just doing it. I just said to myself, I'll figure it out. I don't know how else needs to change, but that was like the moment. And I mentioned that for other people who want to do transformation, because look, I can tell you this from working with a lot of clients. Worked with a lot of people since then. A lot of testimonies is if the person's not all in on making the big change, good luck. So usually when I'm with the client, I'm like, how bad do you want to change? if they're not like a 10 out of 10, then, it's like maybe you should work with someone else. You know what I mean? Like, because the people who are like 4 or 5, I had a client, he wasn't really following through with his integration assignments. So I was like, how badly do you want to change, man? Like, are you paying good money for me? You're not following through. And he's like, I don't know, like a 5. I'm like, oh, okay. Should have asked that question to begin with. So really, if you want it, so this is it. I know my first big one is, it's called the enough of this moment. When you get to that place where you're like, I've had it, I can't do it anymore. Whatever, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get beyond this one. Then you're ready. That's when it really begins. You gotta have the will to follow through. So I think, I don't know, have you found that? What is this? Do you have any reference around that?
I love that. I love that image of the Texas Hold'em chips. He was like, universe, I've tried everything. This is me at the end of my rope.
Yes.
Because I thought I did what I was supposed to do. And yet something is, so what happened in that moment? Like, what? Yes. Yeah. I mean, I can definitely answer that question of, yes, I've had that moment. I've had that moment for sure. And I think that is that kind of like the carpet getting pulled out from under you. And I think just to kind of hold that today, it's, February 20th, 2026 that we're having this conversation. And it feels like we're speaking to the larger moment that our country and the global politics of power and influence is going through, which is like, we're having our rug pulled out from under us.
Yes. Yeah. Lots being revealed. Yeah.
So walk us through what happens next, Jonathan.
Okay. Yeah. So, literally, this is what the universe responds to. The universe, this is, now I'm not the first person to say this, but I have to confirm this. Universe will meet you halfway. So if you're just like, I don't know what to do, like if you're just going to be like, prayer, just help me, could that work? It could, but here's the better way to go. When the universe sees you making the effort and you got the commitment, then they'll be like, he's trying. That's when some miracles can come. Because, if you're just like, the universe isn't going to invest in you if you're not going to invest in yourself. As soon as I said yes, I remember exactly where I was. It was like right after Thanksgiving. I came back from my parents and I was like, you know what? I'm going to eat different. So I stopped junk food. I went to like a paleo diet. I started eating really healthy proteins and veggies, and I just cut out the processed stuff. Anything that I had in my kitchen was processed. Either I made a commitment just to eat it within a week or chuck it, and it was gone. I was like, I'm never buying it again. And I just stuck with it. Then I started exercising more often. And then I took this meditation class. This teacher, Daniel Brown, he does something called the pointing out style. That's the tradition of Vajrayana Buddhism. That's what they use. And I love this pointing out style because for me, it's really good it's nonviolent. Because this is how I apply as a teacher. I'm like, look, this whole practice is not religion. There's nothing religious about it. It's about investigating. It's about freedom. It's only a freedom path. So all I do is I'd be like, I point to something that my teacher pointed to me. And when you looked at it from a new way, you can decide if try it out for yourself. Like, I'm not telling you have to do anything. Just give it a try. And I'll explain to you why when you look at things a little bit differently, more things become possible. So the teacher did this. He's talking about this thing called identity. And it's like, who do you think you are? And so, everyone's got these stories, blah, blah. I was born in this male body, yada, yada. My parents are this. So he's got this traditional way of describing sense of self. And he said okay, that's fine. Is that a solid thing? Can you find that somewhere in your body? And I'm like, I don't know. So he's like, so you constructed it, right? So he's like, yeah, I made it up. Everyone does it. No big deal. And, someone else who knew you maybe construct the story a little bit different. But it turns out that's like a reference point. If you think you're something, your mind's always looping back to it. And it's also looping back to unconscious things. Anyways, here's the shift he said. It's like, what if we just looked at what's actually really happening? So, you got this thing called consciousness. What if you looked at it as just like a place where information comes in from your 5 senses and your imagination, and it creates like a picture and a sound and movement and touch? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, the thing called consciousness, this holding thing, what if you decide that you're that first. You're this dumping space that collects information. And before you put any of your other stories on it, what if you just get it in as information in your field? And that way you're not dumping what you thought it was meant in the past, and you're just seeing it as new information. And that's very important, because most people, what they do is immediately go, oh, in the past, I used to think about it like this. And what if you actually just says, no, I'm in this free space, then can come up with new definitions. Like that allows you to have new perceptions on things. But really what you're doing is breaking up the habit of you using what you thought of in the past, and you're giving your brain some instruction and some techniques to bring some free energy to it. So it's like literally, it's very psychological. It's just breaking down the perception process into like very minute, subtle distinctions that can quickly change everything. And so to me, that's actually very practical and logical. So, but yet it makes all the difference. Let me pause there. I said a lot. Does that resonate?
You know what? It even connects back to the moment. You're talking about this ability that we have to see new, to see the other possibility. And I think it has to be preceded by the moment, because that ability that we have to perceive more, I feel like happens in what we call this place of disjuncture in education theory, which is perceiving a gap between how it is and how you would like it to be. Or, perceiving something about, well, I don't know what this is, let me investigate, opens up a window of neuroplasticity.
Yes.
Right? Is the turn of like, oh, something new needs to be investigated, let me put out more energy towards this. So literally you are actually redirecting energy in this very subtle way, as you're saying. And a new possibility just opened up. And when a new possibility opens up, more juice is given to that. And so you can build into what you're talking about, which is remain aware of the incremental ways in which your intention and your vision, and therefore be very kind of to what you put into that new field that you're building. So how did that fall for you? So you said you were coming from a background that was, didn't really have or give you an already ready frame. And so now you had this kind of ability to build a new frame. And so where did that questing, or how did that questing kind of begin and proceed?
This is an 8-day retreat that I had with these Tibetan guys, Daniel P. Brown, and he was, at the time, his protege, his name was John Churchill, and he was his second teacher there. And John ended up being my coach, and Dan ended up being like my retreat leader, and they're both brilliant teachers. Anyways, but what most important thing is I had to practice that technique. Like every morning, I just committed to it. And then about 6 months into it, I got my first, conscious gnosis moment. By that, I mean, I was on Facebook just like this. I'm sitting there, and somebody posted a movie and like on my feed, and I got a voice came in and just said, Jonathan, stop. I'm like, who said that? And I'm looking around, nobody's in my 2-bedroom apartment, just me alone. And I'm like, oh man, I wonder if somebody's like, oh, this is this knowing without thinking that my teacher had said might happen to you if you do this technique. And I'm like, oh, maybe this is my first one of those. So it's like, well, what do you want me to do? It's like that movie. That's the second person who posted that movie. Just watch it. I'm like, it's 90 minutes, whatever. I can do 90 minutes for Invisible Man. We'll give him a chance. So I watched this movie, and basically it was kind of saying like, hey, I don't know, the movie was about pointing about narratives that were not mainstream yet, saying like, hey, have you ever really studied how the banking institute and central banking works? Have you ever thought of like, some of it was like government shenanigans or shadow or conspiracy, but some said like, not everything that the mainstream believes, not everyone believes it. So this guy had like some things about energy and UFO. Anyways, a lot of alternative things. And I was like, I don't know anything about this stuff. I'm not really pro or against conspiracy. It's just not a rabbit hole I've jumped down. But this guy is like, we used to go to Yale. He seemed like he'd done some research. I'm like, I might want to look into this a little bit. So after I watched that movie, I basically looked into some of the things, and I eventually I wanted to find some other smart friends who wanted to look at it with a discerning eye. And I found some other people I trusted. And, it turned out that from my point of view, some of it looked probably true. Some was like definitely true. Some like, that's ridiculous. I don't know why. How could people come up with that? And then there was like some stuff was like, I don't know. You know what I mean? So it's just like, but the couple of the things that I was pretty
Yeah.
confident on, I'm like, that's kind of important.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
so it was like this intelligence came on. It was a good first
Yeah.
impression. I was like, and eventually it started to come on more. It's first very like once in a while, like once a year, but eventually it came on more, and I started to trust it more and more, and it made me smarter. And that was one of the key things that I have a mission now is like, it's like, I don't want to tell people what to do. I'm not into that. I'm a process consultant. Process consultants work with people to give away, what I have. Cause so like, I don't want to work with the same person and doing the same thing. I like variety. So it's just like, it's not my jam. That's a different kind of teaching. So like, so my goal is to teach other people how to get their connection with their own higher self and to get really good at discernment, which we haven't. I know we do want to get into because I think we need it more than ever. There's so much information out there. It's really easy to get lost. Fortunately, there's like some what I call meta models, like where you can take all this complexity, and if you know the right models plus process, it doesn't take as long, especially when we got like Chat GPT and stuff like that to help us and other AIs. I think with the world's, I think some people think the world's in big trouble. I don't. I actually think we're like this far away from peace. We're not too far away from everyone getting along. It's a training thing. People think it's about good and bad, right and wrong. It's not. It's really simpler than that. I actually think it's a skill development thing. I think there's maybe 10 different skills or something. And if we actually focused it on a species, our collective intelligence will go way up. That's my opinion. But, I don't know. I try and break it down into practical things that we can actually do.
And measure, it sounds like.
Yeah, and
we can
measure. Yeah, we can measure this. We don't have to just guess. Yeah, because I have a whole background in measurement. Go ahead.
I think that's a really important point because I think there is now an ecosystem of measurement that is possible that never was before. I mean, just the fact that I'm wearing an Aura ring, I never was into this, and it has changed my behavior. It has changed my awareness. It's just the availability of information changes behavior. Right.
Yes.
It's right. It's just, it's there. It's like, I have to see it. Oh, I start to compare. Oh, what was that? What was this? Okay. Maybe there's some inaccuracies or whatever. Right. But things like a sleep score, kind of knowing where you're at, it is one thing. And then I really want to switch into, and you kind of, brought up this, really great description of how a person who is going through this process of an opening and transformation and searching develops discernment, and discernment is developed in community. And I love how you brought that in. Like, you found friends, you didn't do this on your own, you didn't, because it is really easy to get lost. As we know, and down a rabbit hole and need, and we all do it. I mean, I've been on Facebook since 2007. I have totally fallen for trolls. I have totally been chatting with a bot for probably 2 hours. I don't know. We've all been duped.
Yeah.
And we're easily duped. And I think the faster we understand that, the faster we can dig ourselves out of this hole. That we're in, because we're all just like, oh yeah, we think we know what's happening. It's like, no, there's an entire vast array of things. Our computer is way more sophisticated than the operation system that's working on it. And what you're talking about is kind of like upgrading operation systems.
Yes.
How, right?
Yeah.
Good analogy.
That's a great analogy. So boom. So let's go slow. Let's bring in like components. Boom. Number one, you need bandwidth, right? You need energy. So at different energy levels, you can process more things. Computers have something called like the core processor, which is like the number of speeds. I think it's like a i7, i9, that kind of stuff like that. And it's got RAM. RAM is about like how many things can you hold in your mind at the same time at once? So 32, like 64 will hold more than 32 at once. But the i7 or the i9 will be like how fast it can process the information. So there are different kinds of intelligences. So it's really important to understand to break things into different pieces and understand that all of the pieces actually can be grown piece by piece. So the first thing I want to teach with people is just to have an awareness of that, is to understand that each of us operates at a different energy level and what our natural thoughts are. You want to start to map out like, okay, when I'm in energy low neutral, I think these kinds of thoughts. When I'm in high neutral, I think these kinds of thoughts. When I'm energy rich, I have these kinds of thoughts. Because a lot of people's identities are fixated on like a lower, like, we usually hide our just really nasty stuff about ourselves, but most people, everyone, until they've resolved it, has like a core wound and a nasty thing they made up about myself. Like I used to have a story from childhood. I hate myself. I'm a loser. I want to die. But that was really just because of some things that happened to me as a childhood. I don't need to get into that right now. But, you can change those stories. It's not actually how I believe about myself. But until I made up a story that not only did I believe that, but then I couldn't handle it and I had to suppress it. So I had to discover that whole thing. Because otherwise it was looping. Yeah. There was all these programs and a story that's not true, covered up by a safety program that I no longer need. And it's like almost like a virus program, right, in my own mind. So the thing is, if I had a lesson for everyone,
all the patches.
Yeah, all the patches.
that IT stuck in there.
Everyone's got these patterns. There's nothing to be ashamed of. So what if we all just accepted we all got some virus programs? And virus programs is a little bit harsh because they actually save you. You create them. It's not like they were put in by someone else. I mean, you created them usually for yourself, or you copied them from your parents, but you were the one who copied them. It's like, you don't want to blame anyone but yourself because then you're really effed. That's like the worst thing you do. It's called a victim mindset. You want to pick empowerment, radical empowerment. Like I go to like, I'm the part of me that decided I wanted to know what existence was and just, swallow the whole thing. Is the more, not that me alone, because that would be obviously crazy. But if my stories that were all originate from that same moment, that some part of us was like, I wonder what this existence shit is. Let's check it out. It's like, well, I'm alive, so I guess I'm part of that. That inquiry. Because otherwise, you're starting from victim. You're like, I didn't pick it, man. Somehow I'm here. Well, that's downstream is like you're a victim of life. You want to be a victim of life, or do you want to be empowered? Yeah. So this is a little bit esoteric, but the point is, the Vajrayana Buddhist thing really showed me how to get back to zero, because the Tibetans went deeper than Western psychology. And I could get into this really deep or what that actually looks like, but they are brilliant. They're like, well, this is what God was when for the first second he was born. Like they figured it out just by staring at their own mind. And I'm pretty sure they're right, because you want to start off with like awe, like, oh my God, somehow I'm alive. Like it's a miracle. And like have this like confidence. And also comfortable with mystery, because like, you gotta be like that curious to be. We talked about Too Curious MDs. That's one of the most important qualities. You want to bring curiosity, because you didn't know what you were doing when you made that. I guess I'll go check out this existence things. I mean, because otherwise, you didn't know. You're out of alignment. You thought you could control the whole thing. Well, that's not a really good assumption if you're jumping in and not. I don't know. You kind of got to own it. I don't know. There's something about owning it.
There is.
Yeah.
And you're right that it comes with a taking stock. It comes with a moment where you kind of take yourself to task a little bit, but also you uncover your gifts. I see that that's what I'm hearing here, is that you really uncovered a sense of being in your own power and realizing your gifts as strengths. And so it just kind of eased the anxieties. It eased all of those blocks, because once you get out of your own way, you're kind of limitless.
Yeah.
And, and I get that, I get it, right? Like that's the energy that you're at. And I totally get that, because you've kind of investigated all the way down the line. You've looked at how everything kind of matches up both in the material and the mystical, and tried things out in your body. So I want to just hear from you, like, what are some techniques that call to you, or, you've been drawn to and explored?
Yeah. So here's the thing, everybody. There's some universal ones, and then there's some ones that are more personal. So let's go through some of them ones. This is where the rubber meets the road. Okay, like the first one is, this is for everybody. Like this is like the king daddy. Like,
Are we ready? Are we ready?
we're going into it. I already kind of mentioned it, but we'll do it as I do it. Let's just I'm going to show you the difference between ordinary mind and what I would call Buddha face or God face, which to me is non-dual. This is me as ordinary Jonathan. Like, hey, I'm a human being. I'm in this Jonathan Mozenter body. I'm checking out. I'm on a Riverside podcast with the Soraya with Too Curious MDs. We chat. Our ordinary mind. Cool. All right, let's go to the Buddha thing. I'm imagining, I'm going to ground it for people. We're all going to do this together at the same time. So we imagine we're all looking at our phone, our screen, right? But imagine that's showing up through your eyesight, right? So your eyesight's picking up what's on whatever device you're looking at it, and it's creating a picture in your consciousness, right? And you're hearing my voice. So those words are coming in through your microphones or headphones or whatever, into your ears. But it's all going into consciousness to create a picture. So what if we decided our self, our full self, the part of us that really never changes, is this lucid, clear holding space that holds the picture and the sounds and the noises and the feeling before. Can you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, like close your eyes now. Like the visual field just went boom. Maybe he's like me, he's got some black with some light, but it's the same invisible field that's holding. Like imagine you just went into the dreamland, you're daydreaming, and now, I don't know, he's pushed a like psychedelic spiral. He's got psychedelic spirals spinning around, and boom, his favorite cartoon character just came in there. I like Snoopy. Boom, Snoopy's there for me. You pick Miss Piggy or wherever you want, but I don't care. This is for the audience. Smurfette, I don't care. Just pick your own Roadrunner's having a birthday party. I don't really care. It says you could have multiple things. But whatever. I just got Dino came in, and him and Snoopy are like sharing some tea, and Donkey Kong wants to know if he wants. No, we don't want to play with you, Donkey Kong. Okay. Anyways, enough of that. But my point is, everything happens in this lucid field called consciousness. So what if we chose that as our core identity? I am this field of awareness, consciousness, ether space. Open your eyes. Why is that important? Because that sense of self is a priori to anything else, including things in your unconscious. So you're actually kind of starting to connect to the deepest part of you and put it in control. Because if you just pick like your regular story, then you're basically saying I want to see everything inside that's after that. But the space is like a priori to not only me, but it's also to whoever else is in the field. So it's a more primordial kind of deep energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It totally does. It totally maps. And as you're talking about, or even, that was the experience of it. And I absolutely felt that. And, you mentioned Snoopy. Today's the third reference of Snoopy today.
No way. That's a nice synchronicity.
Let's talk about that.
All right. I got Snoopy on my arm right there. So he's my favorite tattoo.
I have a great little picture of him, with his typewriter saying, "I'm an admirer of my own right." And it's just a way to kind of just like.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the Too Curious MD podcast. We hope today's episode inspired you to ask new questions and explore fresh perspectives. We challenge you to ask us those unasked questions that you're curious about in your medical practice, condition, health, and wellness.
If you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to subscribe, share it with somebody just as curious, and leave us a review. It helps us keep the curiosity alive. Post or comment with a question or curious inquiry that you have and seek to explore or learn with us. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time.